As we're recording this, news just broke. We landed another one, transfer portal. Andrew Mukuba coming to Texas, baby.
Yep.
Wow.
The safety from Clemson, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And he's from Austin originally. He went to LBJ. Obviously it's someone that we lost in our own backyard a couple years ago, but he's coming in with some eligibility, and he's going to rep the burnt orange, switching over the orange, and going to play at home and hopefully anchor down this defense. We talk about how this secondary is young and, needs to mature a little bit, with Brooks on the outside and Muhammad. We're big fans of those guys. Derek Williams back there as well. You got Michael Taft, but I really think that we're looking for some true veteran leadership to really get this secondary in tip-top shape when we head into the SEC.
Beautiful guy. I couldn't think of a better guy. I couldn't think of a better call. Thank you for announcing that. That's amazing. And
it's interesting because just tying the volleyball with the football here, John Cook, the Nebraska volleyball coach, in his post game was highly critical of the fact that, Skinner was someone who had transferred to our program, and that we had a lot of upperclassmen, especially upperclassmen who had transferred. And they had a young team in Nebraska, very talented. They were the number one team in the regular season, but we absolutely routed them. In that second and third game, we beat them 25-14 and 25-11. And if you're not a volleyball fan, or you don't know volleyball, that's like winning in an NBA game by 30 plus points, basically, is the best way to put it. Yes, they dominated. That's either, if you're doubling the amount of points that they have, it's an incredibly impressive feat. They also went on an 11-point run in the first game, which is a tremendous feat as well. And so it just goes to show what we want to build as a winning culture of Texas sports here on the football side. It's bringing in those transfers who are talented, who can get on the field in football, I'm talking about now, right off the bat, but also growing the guys that you recruit and keeping them on the 40 acres. And so I think, 4 of our 6 starters on that volleyball team were recruited and have been with the university, and 2 of those starters were transfers, right? And we're doing the same thing. It's a combination, and we're playing the game how it's supposed to be played in the current moment. And those transfers can really make a difference for a program. And, certainly we're losing, you mentioned Taft, right, Nick? Like, he'll be gone next year. So we're going to have to replace him, and we're going to have to bring more veteran leadership in on the defensive backfield. And so this Mukuba it's huge. It's huge for us. Yeah. And then we hadn't mentioned on our show, but Nick, a wide receiver last week that committed to us as well.
Yeah. Mukuba is the number 1 rated safety in the portal, by the way. So it's huge that when you're going out and getting the top guy at your position, and someone who's going to start right away. But yeah, Matthew Golden out of Houston, receiver that a lot of people are drawing comparisons to Xavier Worthy, can be a guy that really just slots in and takes over the same kind of role that Xavier had as a kick returner. And as a speedster on the outside. He had 2 touchdowns against us this year in the Houston game against us. So it's nice that, he had some success against us. And I think it's kind of one of those situations where you perform against our guys, we want to have you on our team. So super excited to see what he can do. I think he was the number 3 wide receiver in the or number 2, depending on who you look at it, number 2, number 3 ranked wide receiver in the portal. So super exciting that we went out and got him. And, I think at the end of the day, you want to be able to replace the speed that you lost, that you're going to lose with Xavier Worthy. And honestly, we see it all the time. I mean, when a guy has a tandem, out there on the edge with Jonte Cook, when he steps up, it's going to be a lot of fun to see these guys, have success with each other when, corners decide to go over and cover the other guy, and then you leave the other guy open and then you beat him deep. So excited to see the speed on each side of the ball.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up Matthew Golden, not only in the receiving game, but the return game as well. And we got to replace an all conference return man in Xavier Worthy. And that's what he was. He was an all Big 12 first team, returner.
2 touchdowns this year. Returning. Yeah.
So that's all. It's special teams with Toss's guy. I mean, I guess everybody's guy, Big Bert, Bert the leg, he was great. And we were always, putting out punters. Like, we had a really strong special teams year, and we need to keep that momentum going in the SEC, where you can't afford to make any mistakes in any phase of the ball. So getting a guy who's experienced in the return game and a strong receiver in Golden was another massive get for Sark. I also want to throw out Colin Simmons and Alex January. They play on Duncanville. They won 6A title this season.
Big time.
Big time. Simmons is, I feel like he's one of those guys like Anthony Hill who is just truthfully going to be as advertised. But his running mate, I did a deeper dive into a guy like Alex January, who's not a 4-star guy. He's not a 5-star guy. He's a 3-star guy, but he's a defensive lineman. He's 6'4".
Well, it depends where you look. I've been seeing 4-star rankings on him.
Yeah, I'm not even looking at the stars. I'm looking at the height. I'm looking at the weight. That boy is 6'4", 325. That is an absolute moose in the middle. And you know what? It's 3-star, 2-star, 1-star. We're developing guys now. It's a completely different program where we're not just trying to itch that, star. We're not star hunting, right? We're not trying to get the 5-star guys like you. The reports from A&M, like little brother was like Jimbo Fisher only cared about the ratings and the stars. He didn't care about any of the intangibles, any of the potential off-the-field issues these kids had. He was just going after 5 stars so his class looked the best. Doesn't matter for us anymore. Ford, 3-star guy. Burke, 3-star guy. We're developing dudes. It's a completely different program.
I mean, you look at what T'Vondre Sweat looked like when he joined our team as a young freshman, and man, it looks like someone completely ate that person and has rebirthed a new man in T'Vondre.
Yeah, but turned him into protein.
Exactly,
like protein,
straight protein, baby. But yeah, it's awesome that we're able to be in the mix for these guys now, and it's fun to see what we're able to turn out. Hopefully we get another big transfer portal commit here pretty soon and Trey Moore. I mean, I think people are locking him in to come to Texas. He's the number 3 edge in the portal, number 13 overall player on 3 rankings, and coming from UTSA. It's nice to see a guy that is kind of in your backyard already from Spring Branch, Texas, and come over and have 2 years of eligibility to play at Texas. I mean, he'll slot in nicely with some of the guys that we're losing as well.
Yeah, I think we got Xavier Filsaime. I think we got the flip from Florida. I think we just.
You raised your arms just now.
That's why sorry. I didn't mean to jump you while you were talking and distract you. But yes, that is why I raised.
So not a transfer. He's a flip on the recruiting side out of.
That's what someone.
Yeah. Austin just tweeted it. He goes, breaking news: elite 2024 safety Xavier Filsaime tells me he's flipped from Florida to Texas.
Wow.
He's from McKinney, Texas. So that's your own backyard again. I mean, you can't lose guys like that to Florida. But hey, talking about this secondary right here, it is a perfect addition right here. 5-star safety, one of the top guys in the class for himself. And that's just a huge commit for us.
And why wouldn't you come here? The thing about the freshman is this.
Having a day.
Yeah, we're having a great day. Muhammad plays as a freshman. Anthony Hill, especially on the defensive side of the football. Anthony Hill plays as a freshman. I know we said that Jonte Cook really didn't get his run this year at the receiver position, but Xavier Worthy played as a freshman. Like, if you're good, like CJ Baxter played as a freshman, you're going to get your run. Best player plays in our system.
Yep.
So if Xavier Filsaime is what he's supposed to be, and he is a true 5-star player, he's going to get some run at the safety spot. And we know how he rotate our defensive backs, Texas. Like, he is going to get his opportunity to play, and he's going to play in big games. And ultimately, like, I think he wanted to play for Florida. I think he was one of those guys that was vocal, but once people started to leave, like, you can't be the only one. You can't be like one of 2 dudes trying to resuscitate a program, especially with the way of the world right now, where like NIL, the way the culture is at Florida, they're not winning anything, and they're not going to probably win anything anytime soon. Like, they don't really have a promising future. They're not a top 7 team in the SEC with us and Oklahoma coming. So Florida's on the down. Texas is on the up. He's a kid that's in our backyard. It makes perfect sense for him to come home. And we're just adding piece after piece. And all of a sudden, like 3 years ago, our defense is like, oh, maybe this guy could pop off or that guy could pop off. Our defense is like a juggernaut this year, and it's looking to be a juggernaut for the years to come. It's it's like a real SEC team, a team that can actually be an SEC program.
I mean, at the end of the day, look, we're in the college football playoff with an SEC team as an SEC team now. And you don't want to just make your way in and then make your way out. And then that's that. Let the dust settle, right? Like, we want to ride this high. We want to ride this momentum. And heading into the conference where, there's going to be a big target on our back, where teams are going to want to prove that what we played in was inferior to what they play in. And so, I think you have to literally just, I mean, it's such a cliche term, but all gas, no brakes. You just have to keep your foot on the pedal. I think it was very reminiscent of how our seasons have gone in years past, where we get complacent in our play, right? Where we lose a lead, or we give up a game, and we kind of take the foot off the gas pedal. And this year, I think it's been quite the opposite. I think we've continued to put our foot on the pedal despite a couple of close games. But regardless, I mean, it's the same way in recruiting. You want to look at this the same mentality is like, the best player plays, so get as many good players as possible. And if they don't want to be here, then they can transfer or whatever. But ultimately, we know that we have the right guys playing at each position. And I think it's awesome that we literally got 2 safeties today in the matter of an hour. We got Filsaime that we just mentioned, and we got Mukuba. One of them is a little bit older, one of them is a little bit younger, so maybe they can learn from each other. I mean, I think that's an awesome program and an awesome culture that we're building. And look, I would not take us out of the mix either for some of these other big fish. I know that Ole Miss looks like they're going to lock up Walter Nolan here, but guys flip all the time. You take one good visit here, you meet one guy, and your entire perspective changes. I mean, I know a lot of this is motivated by NIL money, but look, I think we're in the mix for literally anyone.
Yeah, objectively, as like a college football fan, it'd be swag if Ole Miss was like back.
I mean,
and I think
they've crushed this transfer portal.
They've crushed it. They've murdered the transfer portal. But you know what? Like, I think they're in a way different place than Florida. Like, that's a team that's on the cusp. It's like the difference. They're like the Penn State almost of the SEC. Like, every year there's a chance they could knock off Bama or Georgia, and they just never get over the hump. Like, those are their 2 losses this year, and they couldn't really put it together offensively as well as we thought. Like, with Judkins took a step back. Jackson Dart is a guy we all think can make that jump, and he just hasn't yet. But Lane Kiffin is a guru, and he's brought these guys in. He brought Juice Wells from South Carolina. He brought in the edge from Florida, and he's really throwing together a dominant performance. And, I think people are like, all right, 12-team playoff, Ole Miss can make that, should make that. And if Ole Miss gets to the playoffs at the party at the Grove, that's what you want to be a part of in college football. And that's what we're rebuilding. And all, you want to bring a champ. You want to light that tower orange. Like, that's sick. You want to bring a party to Austin, Texas, man. Like, that's what you can do if you win the national championship. You can make it rain in Austin.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I think it also helps that, whatever your thoughts and opinions are on a guy like Lane Kiffin, if you're a football fan, you're a college football fan, you probably have multiple thoughts. But the guys like playing for him. They really do. And I think, Sark he's a different type of guy than Lane, just from just a composure standpoint, how he approaches things. But I think I at least could imagine myself being an 18-year-old and winding back the clock and being a really, really high talented football player and wanting to play for either one of those guys. And not to mention, then you get into talking about the Texas Longhorns and some of our position coaches, right? And we all know how we feel about PK and how we feel about Coach Choice and Coach Flood and the whole rest of those guys, right? And
Bo Davis,
and in and of themselves, they're guys that you want to go play for. So I think it's, again, kind of circling back to, we were talking about the women's volleyball and just the criticisms from the Nebraska coach. It's like, you can really do damage in the portal. It's not the first step, right? But when you have everything else in place and you have that foundation, it can make things look really, really good, really, really fast. And it's hard pressed not to go into next season and say that Texas and Ole Miss aren't, 2 of the 3-4 best teams in the SEC, because Georgia, they'll bring back Beck, right? And they'll be up at the top, but they lose a lot of players. They're going to lose a lot on the offensive side with Bowers.
Sure.
And Alabama obviously will keep Milroe, but Burton will be gone. There'll be some other guys on that team that are gone as well. Of course, on the defensive side with Kool-Aid and Dallas Turner. So, they'll have to replace guys too, just like we will. We're defensive line. We're mentioning the secondary, but we're already doing a really good job of kind of just bringing in some of that depth and talent and position groups that could have been weaknesses if you had looked at the Longhorns going into the 2024 season 3 weeks ago, right? We're talking about the wide receiver position. I mean, we have Kane who's transferring out, right? We have Nair who's transferring out, but just the fact that now I can go into next season as a Longhorn fan and somebody talks about the team and say, we've got Wingo, right? We've got Jonte Cook and and what's the guy from Houston? What's his last name's name?
I think Golden.
And Golden, right? So those are three guys that I believe can be contributors. And we've got Gunner, who's going to be our tight end.
We had Ryan Niblett last year too. So I feel like, there's still guys out there that, and DeAndre Moore Jr. I mean, I think we've got some depth, and watch. And during the spring, we're going to see some guys get in the mix that we didn't really, think about. I mean, we're losing Witt, we're losing Adonai Mitchell, and we're losing Xavier Worthy. Someone's going to have to step up.
Let me put this to you guys though. Like, yes, our passing attack is ferocious. But when push came to shove, what was our bread and butter on offense this year? It was the engine that made things go. It was our run game. And if we get a healthy Jonathan Brooks back, if we get CJ Baxter with another year of seasoning and another offseason, and that's our 1-2 punch going into the SEC. And keep in mind, we bring back Campbell, we bring back our left tackle, who's going to be a top 10 pick in Mr. Banks. This team is dangerous. We also brought in Brandon Baker, offensive tackle from California. He's coming into the mix and he's going to work his way in. Hopefully, we recruited well on the offensive line. We're going to.
I just love that we're not complacent though, right? You're absolutely right, Josh. But I love that it doesn't mean that we're giving up on our wide receiver core, right? It doesn't mean that we're saying, oh, next year that's what we want. That's what will make our QB's job a lot easier. Always.
Yep. 100%.
Sarge just tweeted on a heater, fire emoji, horns up.
Yeah, I mean,
damn right, Sarge.
Good. But that's
damn right. On a massive heater.
But that's like what Lane Kiffin's like. That's what Lane Kiffin's like. He's like, look, you have to play the game, right? You either ride the wave or you get swept up by it. And these kids like Hayes Fawcett, because Hayes Fawcett makes cool graphics and he makes it look dope. They love the swag. And we all made fun of Brian Kelly when he got into that video the other year, and it was weird and awkward. But I will tip my cap to him. He's trying and making the effort and trying to play the game.
And what I will play the game a little bit about young kids, who are 17, 18 years old, is they're young and awkward, so it's okay. So I get it though. I mean, at the end of the day, these kids, they are finally becoming men. They're getting all this love, all this hype. There's NIL money getting thrown around. There's, all these cool graphics, promo videos and stuff. They're used to being high school pep rallies. And now it's like, I could be thrown right in the mix of an SEC championship battle, on SEC Network, and get all these scouts at all my games. And I get all this swag, coming in and out. I mean, you're giving them, the keys to the kingdom a little bit here. So it's really dope to see what we're able to do here. And Sark is really taking the Texas culture into consideration and using that as his recruiting tactic, which I love. We're building a culture here, and it's awesome. And I love that we're able to flip recruits in conference now, because Xavier Filsaime was a Florida recruit.
Yeah.
So he flipped from Florida, a fellow SEC team now, to Texas. And I hope we can do the same thing with some of A&M's guys, and I hope we can continue to do some of that stuff with OU's guys. So exciting stuff, but let's keep it rolling.